always bringing it inwards. So I'm going to invite everybody right now to just notice what's going on in your body. Be really present. Take a breath in. Let that shit go. Just notice, what's the tension like in your face? Are you scowling? Are you making a scowly face? Are your teeth grinding? Are you noticing some tension in your neck or your shoulders? Just what are you aware of as you start to scan down your body? What's going on in your gut? What's going on in your hips? How do your legs and feet feel? What do you notice? Any sensations, smells, sounds, stuff you see, changes in light? Even if you have your eyes open or closed, either is fine. And then just noticing what's going on with your breath. Does it come just to the top of your chest? Does it get a little farther past that? You don't have to change anything if you don't want to. Just aware of what's going on, present, both with your body, the sensations, with your thoughts, what's going through your head right now. Forget about the laundry, wondering if the stove is on or off. Did you remember to send that email? Just notice all the places our mind wants to go. Why did you say that to that person a little bit ago? Just allowing all of that to be present. Just noticing. So, girlfriend, what are you noticing?
Like, I need to move. I've been sitting for an hour and a half. I need to move.
We're just getting started.
Yeah, we are.
So, do you need to get up and move right now?
No.
You all right? I mean, we could stand up and shake it out a little bit.
Play some music. No, we're good. Let's do this.
Okay. I'm noticing a little stuff going on in my gut, but nothing like I've noticed this cycle with my body that every time I sort of change a narrative, shift my story, that for my physical body, it usually shows up. In the past, it's shown up in a variety of ways, like digestive, skin, aches or pains, things that I used to attribute to, oh, geez, I hope my plantar fasciitis isn't coming back. Like this is a thing. And just noticing, like, as I've been walking more, that my feet have been sore. So I always like to look at it both from the physical standpoint as well as the energetic standpoint. And for me, I've been noticing this kind of this energy of like being afraid to move, a little fear that comes up with being afraid to move forward, or actually even afraid to sit, to be still, right? Sort of the two extremes, like moving too quickly or sitting still. And our feet are oftentimes the things that move us, right? So I've just been noticing the awareness that this habit of my body, to, show me where I need to pay a little attention. And for me this week, that's been like where I'm rooted, where I'm grounded, where I feel safe, where's home. These are themes I have been exploring constantly. being here at our friend's house now and still searching for a boat, and also allowing myself to not be um, swayed in my knowing. So, my experience for all of you this week that are listening is, where we are currently in search of a boat. I think that's what we're doing. Sometimes we never know. Like, really, because we think we set this goal or we set this intention, this thing out in front of us. And sometimes it's the thing, and sometimes it's just the vehicle that we get to take the journey in, right? So I think we're looking for a boat. I mean, that's what we've been doing, and also having awareness around what stories this is allowing me to change. So this week, I realized at an even deeper level, my life is about transformation and manifestation. Like, that is what I came here for. Transformation and manifestation, and they go hand in hand. Um,
Wait, for people that may not know, or they're like, what are you talking about? What is transformation to you? What do you mean by that? And what do you mean by manifestation?
so, transformation in a kind of a wizardry sense is transforming lead into gold. Transformation in the sense of like us as humans is um, sort of this natural desire to want more, to want to grow, change, and evolve, and sometimes finding ourselves stuck because of the thoughts, beliefs, stories. We could say, oh, because of my genetics, I can't have this. So transformation is being able to discern, to have an awareness of what those thoughts, beliefs, or feelings that are keeping us in a certain pattern, have awareness of those, and then have the mastery, the manifestation, the power to realize that we are all powerful creators. And when we change that narrative about who we are, what we're worthy of, what we think we're deserving of, what we think we can ask for, what we can have or not have, when we transform, when we change and shift that story through our awareness of what stories have we been telling, what stories have we just thought were true, um, allows us to change our beliefs. And in that, we're able to create and manifest, whether it's money, relationships, well being, health, like all of those things are possible. So for me this week, really taking that in even deeper, knowing that my purpose here is people. My purpose here is in my relationships. My purpose here is helping people understand their thoughts, their emotions, their beliefs about who they are, so that they can manifest everything it is that they've been asking for. It's not my job to tell people that you can't have what you're asking for, or that you're asking for too much, but to show people how you can have what you want as soon as you understand that that you are the powerful creator that you are.
And
And
where
when
you've been blocking it.
yeah, exactly. So this week in our boat shopping, like, just to take this one example, a friend of mine suggested, because we were looking at boats, and there's a well-known YouTube channel in the kind of in the sailing and traveling community called Gone with the Winds. And Gone with the Winds have decided to sell Curiosity. They have a massive social following. They have quite a bit of cred for their social followers. And um, our friend had suggested, like, Curiosity is everything that you guys are looking for. But when I had asked my guidance, and my guidance is my internal knowing, which I used to try and explain or justify to people. I no longer do that. I trust it. I trust it. Like I trust my husband, or like I trust you. Um, and even more so, right?
I was going to say, and
Um,
even more so, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um,
Numero uno right here.
right, exactly. Um, so I'd asked my guidance, and my guidance was like, curiosity is not your boat. Okay. So I didn't even try. Then I started getting a little pressure. Like, this is everything you've said you wanted. Why wouldn't you?
Meaning other
So,
people in the house, friends, maybe David or whomever, were saying,
yeah,
hey, why
yep,
don't we look at this boat? Okay.
yep, right. Um, and so I I did go ahead and reach out, and by the time I did, uh, Curiosity basically went under contract. And we've looked at boats here and there, and our friend suggested, he's like, listen, in this market, you got to be willing to sort of like jump out on a limb and maybe put a boat under contract with the stipulations that um, it passes inspection, that that it surveys well, that sort of thing, where they take the boat out of the water, they look at it, they check its integrity, right? Um, and I had the opportunity to just say, you know what? I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to say yes to something just because it's a hot market. And I'm using air quotes for those of you that are just listening, just that it's a hot market. And I should be willing, if I'm going to ever find a boat, I've got to be willing to say yes and maybe give it stipulations. And I'm like, I don't believe that to be true. I used to. I used to believe that I had to not trust that knowing. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to his belief, right? And his belief in lack, and that we're competing for things, and that the boat that you really want isn't out there, or you take what you get, and then you
Exactly.
can, versus
Exactly.
no, I'm not settling. This is what I want, and it's coming to me. I know it is.
Hmm. So there's this beautiful harmony between logic and faith. Our friend, so I one of the things that I've been playing with is Karen Curry Parker has for the last 6 months I've been doing her witch wound, WITCH, for those of you wondering, her witch wound class, and talking about like understanding our magic. But oftentimes we're very logical, and our logic gets in the way.
This
Our
girl's been
logic,
logic for 41 years, however old I am.
yeah. Um, and I used to be super
Yeah,
logical,
a
like,
lot of us are. It's a safety thing.
absolutely. We focus on what we believe to be absolutely true, what we have evidence to prove. And when we do that, though, we leave no room for the miracles, for the magic to come into our lives, for the transformation and the manifestation of what we truly want. We just get stuck there. So what I said was, well, I might be able to say yes if people are cool with me saying, okay, if the boat doesn't survey well, if the boat doesn't like have all the things that you say it does, and if when I step on the boat, my inner knowing says nope, like if that's fine, sure, I could maybe put a boat under contract to go see it. Um, but I really don't feel like I have to, because I have this trust, this complete trust, that whether it's the boat or whether it's something else, that everything that I've ever asked for is unfolding for me right now. And this is not a trust that I was born with at all. Well, actually, take that back. It was a trust that I was born with and conditioned out of. So um, this week, just like, yeah, my inner knowing has never let me down, but it took a long time to get reconnected to that, because I felt like everybody else somehow knew better. and the evidence of my current reality is proving that, you know, girl, you don't have the money to buy the boat that you want. So it's not possible. Or um, you're in competition with everybody else to find the boat that you want that's in your budget range. Um, so yeah, that's kind of been my experience this week. That and my friend having a heart attack and watching all of that unfold.
You want to talk more about that?
Um,
From your experience, what you've
sure,
noticed in wellness and well-being.
sure. And I guess since I was going to say over to you, Erin, like, let's see what's going on with you this week, but I'll touch on it briefly and then I want to hear about your week. Um, what do I have to say about this? Nothing yet. We're going to have to come back to this because my guidance is like, nope, we're just going to let that pause for a minute.
What have I been noticing this week? That my body is moving more quickly through transformation than it used to, with more ease. And what I mean by that is what I've noticed a lot of times, here it goes back to my logical mind, way back when I would either come down with bronchitis or I used to get rashes. What else would I experience? Those are probably the main two things. That I would think that there was something wrong, right? There's something wrong with my body. I'm getting sick, things of that sort. But what I have realized is, and Dr. Joe, and we've talked about this a couple of podcasts back, but when you are upgrading, up leveling, transforming not just your mind and your beliefs and who you are, but at a cellular level, you are doing this, your body gets rid of all of the junk and crap that it's been storing for however long. And one of the ways that I've noticed is my underarms almost break out in a rash. When we were going to go to Maui last year in May, when I was really thinking about going, and that was when I was not working and I was using our funds and spending what I thought was quite a bit of money of coming here for a month. They were inflamed for a month. And I have a girlfriend who is used to be an internist, family medicine, and her husband is a dermatologist. And she's like, do you want me to ask him? And I'm like, no, because I know there's nothing wrong. Like, it's just old stories that are kind of coming up and out. But we have been taught by society that there's something wrong with us. We need to go see the doctor. And yes, I did. I think after week 2, I think I ended up putting some hydrocortisone cream just to kind of tame. I didn't want to take anything internally to suppress it. Like, it needed to come up and out. But a lot of times we think that there's something wrong with us and we need to go see a doctor. But this is our body's way of saying, like, everything is right? Like, turn inward, keep looking at what is happening. What are you experiencing? And I for sure was feeling it that whole entire month, not just, with my underarms, but in general. And so this past maybe it was a couple of days ago, I noticed that I kind of had just on my right side, which is typically, the masculine side, and just noticing stories that were almost the way, and this is what I had told you before, is like noticing it coming up in the body and then noticing the stories after. Like, my body is now my, what do you call it? Like, I don't want to call it drug dog, but where, like the sniffer, right? Like, it's like giving me the info before. Go ahead.
Canary in the coal mine.
Yeah. It's telling me what's happening before I'm actually aware of my thoughts or my feelings about it, and how quickly it came. I didn't even know it until I took my shirt off. And then my daughter had said something, like, and I had noticed it at that point. And, but I didn't feel it how I had felt like the itchiness, the redness, but the red and the heat, like hot, hot, hot.
Mm-hmm.
And so just noticing how quickly it was moving through me versus before, like I said, I mean, last May, it was a whole entire month that I was inflamed with. And so just being very aware of stories and things that patterns that come up, and noticing where in the past, lots of shoulds, right? Like you shouldn't be doing this. And this is probably more so from a parental place of noticing certain things. And I know we've talked about you, Tanya, you don't know what you want, right? And so you don't even ask for that. I've always known what I want. And then I've been told I can't have that. And so the just noticing of those old stories coming up and out and how quickly I moved through it versus it being weeks or months, a month, I should say, of, and being present with my body, right? Like noticing like, oh, wow, look at that. And also knowing nothing's wrong. There's nothing to
Yeah.
fix.
Having the compassion for the body, because we talk about this a lot. We understand it very well, and it's one of the things that Erin and I are both passionate about teaching and sharing is, and we've learned it in lots of different ways from lots of different teachers, Dr. Hawkins, Dr. Joe Dispenza. I've learned it from Karen Curry as well, Karen Curry Parker. Is this idea that this understanding that our brains use a ton of energy to process thought, to rationalize, to logic things. It uses so much energy. And so it's easier for the body to store information that's used all the time. Like walking. We don't have to get up every morning and remember how to walk. We just know it's in the body, unless we have an accident or something that happens. And then we have to, it takes a lot of effort
Retrain.
and energy to retrain our bodies to walk if we're able to do that. So when we talk about stories, it could be an experience that we had in our childhood that says, every time dad's in a bad mood, this happens. Like you can bet that every time he's had a bad day at work and he comes home and he drinks, that like these certain things are going to be present. And so you could be out with friends and walk by a bar and have that smell, and maybe hear someone talking that has the same kind of tone as your father. And the body, oftentimes, like our minds aren't necessarily always aware of what's going on, but the body's like, hold up, all the criteria of dad's in a bad mood, we're going to get our butts beat if we make too much noise, comes online, right? It's memorized in our bodies. So when we have an experience that plugs in, I mean, our bodies are just the most incredible computers that record every vibration, every sensation. Like that's what all of our hearing, seeing, feeling is about, right? It's about these sensations and vibrations. So that information comes in, and oftentimes the body starts having a physical reaction before the mind even knows, what up? What's going on? What just triggered me? And so in the realm of transformation, when we're rewriting these stories, oftentimes where we get where we get stuck is when we're just always in this pattern, but we're unaware of what's going on. The body just sort of does its thing. And then sometimes the thoughts will then match whatever feelings are going on inside. I'm not safe. I don't feel good. Something feels off. I don't feel right here, but maybe we can't explain it. So our bodies are literally in the habit, in the practice of physically responding. And so, she's going to kill me, but my daughter has wanted to start dating again. And I'm not going to go into any of the details, but she's had some bad experiences in the past. And she made the decision that she wanted to start dating again. And she's like, Mom, why is my face breaking out all of a sudden? And I'm like, this is the old story about like, what can I expect going back into that realm of dating, wanting to connect with someone else and feeling like,
well, if she doesn't may not know this, but it's stress, right? It's stress for her. It doesn't feel like it, or might not be at the moment like I really want this thing. But if your experience has been a stressful experience, that's why, and we think something's wrong, but our bodies are showing us. It's like the highlight or the flashlight,
mm-hmm,
the real for us, right?
yep. So, for you, the like, I think it was, what was it, last week or the week before last, when you had the
I was down for the
experience of,
count of the
yeah,
whole week. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. What was did it come up in your awareness afterwards what that might have been?
For sure. After, right? Like already after, it was because I was putting pressure on myself. It was because of business stuff, right? That we were working through, you and I were working through, and some of the other people that are no longer part of Who University. And so working through that and realizing but what happened first is my body said, no more, we're not doing anything, right? My body was the canary in the coal mine. And then is when I realized, okay. And so it's the same thing. And if we are present, if we are willing to be aware and to not just rush and think something is wrong, actually something is right. Our bodies are telling us something. Are we open to listening versus, my family has a lot of back problems, but that's all of our root, right? And instead of going to the orthopedic surgeon, right? And being like, I might need a back surgery, I need cortisol injections, or I need this or that. It's like, no, there's a reason why we are feeling all of this back pain. But we have been conditioned by society that like, oh, this is our body's doing this must be wrong, we need a doctor to go fix it, versus what am I experiencing? What am I feeling? What have I been repressing for God knows 50 plus years?
Right.
That is causing me to experience this.
Yep. For me, it's shown up in rashes also, lifelong issues with eczema, allergies,
Which all
thyroid,
of those, for anyone watching, right? That's all the autoimmune. That's all of our bodies
literally attacking ourselves.
literally attacking ourselves. Yes.
Yeah.
And it does that because it's like, this is not safe. Whatever organism or whatever, things are here is not safe.
And if you had asked me 2016, 2017, in fact, I know when I went through like the very beginning of when I went through coach training, even with some of the trauma training that I was doing along with coaching, how's my life? I would have been like, oh, it's great. Like, oftentimes coaches will have you do sort of an assessment, like, where are you at with your spirituality or money or relationships or family, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, oh, I'm an 8, I'm a 9. Like, life is good. Life is really good. Now, I'm not saying this to people to freak them out, but that might be true. Like if everything in your life is going the way you desire, want, then you're probably spot on. That's great. Nothing to be done. Just keep on manifesting and doing you, right? But what I was noticing is I felt like I'm grateful for my marriage. I'm grateful for a healthy kid. I'm grateful that I've got some money in the bank. I'm grateful,
It's
I
like you were
have,
doing lip service though.
yeah. Um, but I was like, why am I always getting injured at CrossFit? Why am I still having blood pressure issues? Why am I still having cholesterol issues? Why am I still having these aches and pains? Why am I still having these problems with my digestion? Why am I still having problems with thyroid? Why is my hair still falling out? Why, like, all, but everything else in my life is amazing, but my body's falling apart, right? Why am I gaining weight? Why am I struggling with that? Why do I hate my body? Right? Everything's great except for, wait a minute,
My
right?
Christmas laundry list. Instead of a Christmas list, it's like the laundry list of all the things, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So for me, when I started having that awareness, oh, like all of these things, I had just stuffed them down so far that I was, I just was unaware of some of the other narrative that was going on in the story in the body. And the body was like, hey, yo, you're not listening. If if you're having problems with your thyroid, if you're continuing to get injured, if you're having digestive issues, if you're having like pretty much all the medical issues, it's because something else is going on, right? Gabor Mate talks about this in his book, When the Body Says No, how often he'll come across people that are like, I'm a positive person, I have a good life. Why do I have cancer? Why do I have this problem? Why do I have that problem? I don't understand. And it's oftentimes the stuff that we suppress. So when we start this journey, right, this journey of transformation, it all begins with the awareness. Like, what am I really thinking? What am I really feeling? What am I really believing? And many of us have gone through the gamut of we've been past the anger, we've been past the resistance, just wanting to get away from things, and we've isolated ourselves to a certain degree, um, or just like ejected certain family members out of our lives or certain friends, right? To the point where we're just frozen. Like we feel indifferent, we have numbed out, we keep ourselves busy with all the things. Um, so when we start having this awareness, uh, sometimes some of those memories will start to come up. Um, Awareness of how we feel around our bodies, and that's one of the things that you and I practice all the time, being present, which is it's a practice, right? To be present, because oftentimes we go not present. We're either in the future or in the past. Um, but noticing then how our bodies are just almost like it's programmed in, just like the walking. Oh, when these conditions are met, this is what my body does. So, what have you been noticing this week that came up with the arms?
Yeah, like what I was saying of my arms, right? Like my arms coming up, noticing that old stories of, I've always said this, right? And this will probably be my thing till I die of money's my thing, right? Money is my thing that I'm always going to be working through. And noticing that everyone has stories around money, and I've never believed money was evil. I never believed money was a bad thing, but it was for sure help me with my words. Righteous? I don't know if that's the right word. Like I
It was
haven't felt that
control.
way. For sure it was control. It was more like if you have money, you've done something right with your money. If you don't have money, you fucked up somehow. If that
Mhm.
makes right. Um, And so just noticing some old stories come up of how, and I've talked about this before, but how I choose to spend my money is very different than probably the way I was taught growing up, and also through financial planning, right? You save a lot of money, you, for lack of a better word, you hoard it, right? I mean, that is what we do with retirement funds, right?
Yep.
We hoard them for some point in the future because we think we're never going to generate any more money. And noticing also, like, and I've always said this, is I think that money is very similar to grades as a child, right? So in school, if you're a straight A student, you just move that over to millions in the bank as an adult, right? Like, we identify with money, our self-worth, our net worth, all of that is hung up in our identity. And so when we use, or for me personally, when I use my money differently than how I've been taught to use my money, noticing little glimpses of shame
You're
and
doing it
guilt.
wrong.
Oh yeah, totally doing it wrong. At first I thought you were like telling me about the podcast. I'm like, I'm not doing this wrong. But then realizing about the money, right? Like, like totally doing it wrong. Right.
Yeah.
And noticing that come up and just allowing it to be there. Cause that is the practice, right? Like, why do we drink? Why do we work? Why do we eat? Why do we sex? Why do we Netflix? We do all of those things because we don't like that feeling. It doesn't feel good when I, felt inadequate on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever I was. You're like, how are you? I'm like, just feeling inadequate right now. It's just what we're doing. But it's okay for it to be there, but the more practiced you get at it, the faster it moves through you, right? Like, it probably lasted a couple of hours and I was like, okay, but authoritative, that's also probably another thing I noticed, right? And no one necessarily said, I don't think anyone came out and said you're doing it wrong, but for sure questions and insinuations.
Right. What are your trigger questions, and who do they usually come from, or where does that usually come from?
For sure it comes from parental, and it probably, I was talking to our financial advisor. So anything of like authoritative, right? If you want to air quote that, like, and so yeah, you're I think it's almost, in a way, it's like any question, this idea that you need to be making money right now, this idea that you need to be, where's the doing?
So we almost had a simultaneous experience of talking to our financial advisors. I think it was the same day.
Yeah.
Maybe not the same exact hours, but
yeah.
You talked to yours and I talked to mine. And
Yeah.
I was like, man, I had a good time talking to my financial advisor. We talked for almost an hour. We were just shooting the shit. We were laughing. He called me up and I was like, he almost didn't even have to say anything. I'm like, you're doing this because of this. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, and you don't want to like put money here right now because of the market, being so yep. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then we were like talking about other things versus your experience
with my annual meeting, which that feels very like transactional based too, right? Here we go, like your annual meeting, which for those listening, like I was a financial planner, certified financial planner, like this, I don't want to say it's my jam, but like I'm pretty knowledgeable in the financial world. And I don't necessarily enjoy, I don't want to say I don't enjoy managing my money because I don't like thinking about it that way, but like the market is not something that excites me. Let me say it that way, because I love my money, but the market doesn't excite me. And so, kind of going through the checklist of questions, right? And we've worked together for a long time, and also just noticing that person, Erin, who she was 10 years ago, a year ago, this is not the same Erin, and the work that I've had to do over the last, I would say my heavy hitting has really been over the last year, man. That's like some monumental exponential growth. But, you know, over the last 3 or 4 years that I've had to, the person that I've become, remembered who I was, you know, is vastly different. And I don't act from that place anymore. It used to be very fear-based. The savings used to be from a fear-based place. And if you want to call it, you know, we've done all of the checklists, you know, the college is saved for, the trust isn't done, you know, all this stuff. But that feels very robotic, and it feels very,
There's not a lot of trust there.
yeah, I was gonna say fear-based is what it feels like.
Yeah. I was just thinking about like your experience versus my experience. And this our friendship, the things that we see in each other is always, I'm so grateful. Like if anybody ever wants to see how rich I am, look at the friendships that I have. I'm fucking a baller, yo. Cause like I just feel like I am the wealthiest person alive because of these relationships that I have and what I'm able to see in you. Like last week when you said I'm feeling inadequate, I was like, wow, I'm noticing inadequate, but it was in a whole different, I was like, wow, you go girl. Like, even if this isn't what I'm actually seeing, this is my perception. And I'm just like loving this right now. Um, but like seeing your experience, like with Grayson, you're like, yeah, we got her college, whether she chooses to go to college or not, all saved. We rolled up in the 11th hour, not having any money for Dominique for her college education. We didn't know how we were going to work it out. But for me, money has never been my thing, right?
Yeah.
I just have this belief and knowing that I can manifest money easily.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we paid for her college education.
Yeah.
And that was like noticing how our beliefs are so critical and having the awareness of what we're really believing is what is creating the manifestation. So just like noticing the contrast between your financial advisor call and my financial advisor call, and like what kind of like what buttons your financial advisor was pushing. Like we talk about contrast a lot and how that's actually such a gift. In the beginning, though, contrast just feels like ass.
Shit. I was like, contrast in the beginning feels like shit. Okay. Let's not sugarcoat this. But
Yeah.
yeah, but now so grateful, right? Like, and that I attribute to my such work within myself, right? Because there was a time when I was using our investments. I say I, right? Because I'm the one that calls, I'm the one that asks for the money. And I was feeling guilt. I was feeling a lot of guilt and shame, a lot of shame for multiple reasons. One, because that's money that's supposed to be for retirement. That's money that you've put aside and you're using it faster than you created it, if that's even a thing. I'm not even sure if that's true or not, right? But that's a story that my mind was coming up with.
From
And
the reality perception, like we're looking at the dollars in the bank and saying, I'm spending more than I'm making, but that's just observing the past, really,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And also, if you look at like what it takes to save X amount of money, and then you're pulling X amount of money out, you're pulling that out faster than it took you to create it or whatever. That's the story, right? And feeling shame, yeah, shame and guilt. And then I just had this realization. It's like, that's my fucking money. I get to use it however I want. But that's not what we're taught in the financial world. Like, you are not supposed to touch your 401k, and you are not supposed to touch any of your IRAs.
And then to take it a step even beyond that, we have to stair step people through things. We're not going to jump from, feeling like a victim to feeling like we're
Yeah.
free. There's
Yeah.
several steps that
Yeah.
occur between that. But noticing, like, if you take it a step beyond that, that you have no idea what's being created in your value bank, the vibration that you're building up, coming into believing I am somebody who can make money doing the things that I love
That's what I've
to
had to retrain
do,
myself. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We talked about how, you see this both in Hollywood, you see it in lots of industries where someone seems like they just came out of nowhere
Yeah.
to, be financially like
Or have all the things,
wealthy
like
or
everything was working out for them, right? Yeah.
yeah,
But you don't
yeah,
see the behind the scenes that they've been doing for however many years. And yeah, I mean, has been a big thing. Like there was a lot of shame and guilt for quite some time. And, um, I mean, my kid, she's like one of my greatest teachers, she's like, Mom, you're asking a 10-year-old if I want to go to college or not, like today, no, I don't, but don't like use my funds on my 10-year-old answer. But it's so true. I mean, I remember she was like a newborn and I made her first payment, a newborn, 18 years. And I was like, you know, and it was paid off by the time she was 5. And I just am sitting here now thinking like, what are we doing as a society? What are we doing? And if she doesn't use it, sure, I can use the money and it's fine. But it's just like, we're planning for things so far in the future, which is where I have lived, which is where my anxiety has come from, which is where my fear has come from, of this never having enough, never of the, that play, or the disc that just runs on, running out of money. That's a story that has been told, that I've told myself, which it's never true. I've always generated. I mean, when you really look at the facts, right? It's like you keep creating more money, but it was a way that kept me in this box, right?
mm-hmm.
Of working harder, saving more, just this never ending. And it's almost like, told you I don't do drugs, haven't done drugs, but that like the way that people talk about being on cocaine, and then that hit like whatever your first one, and then you need more and more and more to satisfy that is it dopamine in the brain that it gets released? Like that's what it was like for me with
True story.
Okay. So, it's that feeling, and we do it to ourselves, but we don't know that, right? Like that was my survival mechanism, but we don't know that we're like doing that to ourselves and creating more of that, more stress, more worry, more fear, because a little bit, wasn't enough. And then it just amplifies.
Yeah. And for me, that has been more represented in health.
Oh, wait, I want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing is to be able to be so sound in your own beliefs, to be like, no, this is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do. Because the topic came up of like, it's more expensive to live in Maui than it is to live in Texas. And I'm like, actually, from a cost perspective, maybe that's true. Like when I did the math, maybe it was $1,000. I was like, and I don't fucking care, because that's what I want to do. And how many times have all of us made decisions from a place of money versus our desires and what we want?
Mm-hmm. And how do you feel living in Maui every day?
Amazing. Except for the times that I feel inadequate. But yeah, like it's where I want to live, right? I want to live at a place where I can be in the ocean. That's what I want to do.
Yep.
And honoring ourselves and loving ourselves enough, right? Like here, what it comes back to, right? Worthy.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I might have had more money in the bank in Texas. not sure. Probably, maybe, I don't know, in a moment of time, not forever, right? But
Right.
yeah, but that's not where I wanted to live anymore.
And what's it like? So there's the what's it like to live in the environment of Maui, and what's it like inside to live in Maui? What's the
Yeah.
difference?
So inside, like when we say inside, right? Like, so it doesn't, when I say Maui energy, it's not, because there's lots of people that can move to Maui and then move back because you're searching for something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus who Erin is a person who honors herself and is free and loving and playful, and those things. Those are who I am as a person, not something that I'm trying to get and go do to feel that way.
Yes. Yeah. So for me, on the physical standpoint, um, like if we look at money as freedom, money as power, money as um, like these are a lot of times the associations that we make with money. If you have a lot of money, you must be free. If you have a lot of money, you have power, which then can be taken from you, right? You could lose it in the market. You could have it
Yeah, lots of
stolen from
protecting,
you.
lots of
Yeah.
protecting our monies.
Yes. Yes. Um, and so then money becomes this source of your security, your freedom, your well-being. Like, how well do you sleep at night? Do I have enough money in the bank? Right. For me, it was my health. My health was my currency. My health was my what I was investing in. And before, it was always about what doctor, what test do I need to have run. I have a family history, so I think I've told this story before. I may not have um, on our podcast, but for me, my awakening came when I found that my father was dying, and I had not had a good relationship with him. But um, I had also not had a good relationship with my mother for many, many years. At this point, those my relationship with my mom was better. My relationship with my father was neutral. I didn't have a relationship with him, and I was okay with that. But when I found out he was dying, I had a vision and a meditation where the little girl version of me came up with two hearts in her hand, one for my mom, one for my dad, and said, um, the reason there's so much heart disease in our family is because we are not being the love that we truly are. We're not being being the unconditional love. And so for me, the currency of the wellness of my heart, um, the unconditional love, the compassion that I had both for myself or for others was sort of like my bank account. Um, and when I believed that that was outside of me, when I believed that I was a victim of my genetics, when I was a victim of my family history of heart disease, diabetes, blood pressure issues, cholesterol issues, lung issues, like all of those
All of them.
things,
Yeah.
right? It was like this giant Herculean mountain that I had to climb. I needed to make sure I had the right medication, got the right doctor. I was fortunate enough to, you know, this is part of the old story too, but I used to joke about how my husband was my insurance sugar daddy, because what I valued at that point was having good health insurance to
Lots of
pay
people do.
for, right?
Lots
To
of people
pay,
don't leave their jobs because of it.
yeah. And for me, it was like, because I'd had the experience before I met my husband about being rejected, another one of my wounds of rejection, being rejected by an insurance company because when I was 20, I had um, I had chronic bladder infections and I had kidney stones. And so when I got medical insurance, they're like, well, we'll take you for all but this. And I was like, but that's the thing that I need it for, right? Kind of reminds me of my mom used to say, money only, pe- banks only loan money to people that don't really need money, right? Um, so for me, my health was my currency. It was my wealth. And I was challenged. Like it always felt like it was getting taken away from me. Why am I getting injured? Why am I having these issues? And then I have all this story about how my genetics are influencing that. So back to my friend this week that had a heart attack. Um, what I got to witness with all of this was the most incredible gift. And I know there's some people probably like, huh? Um, knowing that we've had a very similar story and watching the literally the angels that came around him to give him this experience, um, and what he was able to take from it and what he is currently in the process of receiving from having had this experience is an incredible thing to witness. And I know that I'm being kind of esoteric in describing it. Let me take it just a minute here. I see people, I see the patterns within them. Um, in fact, this week I was talking about how there was a show that I think it only ran for 2 seasons called Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. And she had this ability to see people, and they would be singing songs to her that would say what they were truly feeling inside. And um, and her job was to kind of go and help them. And in helping them, it actually oftentimes helped her, helped heal her. And that's really what we're all here for. Um, we're here to help each other. First, we have to start with ourselves. First, we have to do that internal healing ourselves, and then allow that to move to relationship with one another. One of the reasons why I've said I'm so grateful for you is the contrast, the oftentimes a similar but yin and yang experience with money and health and knowing what we want but not being able to say it, or not sure what we want because sometimes it changes like faster than, you know, my mind changes all the time. And I was told that's too much. Like, you can't want this too much. Um, so with my friend that had the heart attack this last week, it'll be a week ago tomorrow. Um, before this happened, I was able to see a man that incredible human being, just so giving, so loving, so generous with his presence and not allowing himself to receive like his wants, his needs, his desires. There's a conflict that was being created. And he had this story about how he'd gone in and had everything checked and, you know, felt like he was okay. But at the same time, you know, he's got this whole family history about heart disease. So there's this expectation that this is what's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And knowing that that's how we manifest what we're investing our beliefs into, what we're aware of and not aware of. And we had several conversations leading up to it where um, me having come into the space of like, I'm not going to do something that doesn't feel right with my knowing. that I'm learning to ask, what do I want? And make sure that, like, it is not selfish for me to put my own oxygen mask on first. And then seeing where I was noticing like some maybe inner conflict that was coming up. So I want to say one thing, and this is not a cover my ass kind of thing. If you are in medical danger, like our bodies learn how to do these things in response. If you are in medical danger, seek help, right? He got himself to the hospital, and the doctors looked at him. He coded on the table. He had a near-death experience, and the doctors are like, "You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here." So if you're in a medical emergency, absolutely go to the doctor. And what I'm saying, what we're trying to encourage people is start to ask yourself, where, like, what awareness do I need to notice of what's going on? He had some other kind of hints to some stuff that was coming up, and through our conversations even, there were some cracks that were being exposed into some conflicts that he had going on in his heart. Our bodies are the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah, they're telling us. They're always telling us.
Yeah.
Are we listening?
And the story that the body holds is the story of the past. So it's so important for us to be present with the now, to have awareness of our past, but not use that to construct our future.
Yeah.
Gosh, I feel like I'm diving down a rabbit hole that could get really deep. So
save that one for the next podcast.
Yeah. Another podcast. And so the question I want to ask you right now is, we've had some discussions about kind of like, what's our scary list? What's our push, sort of push that expansion muscle? What is on your list right now? Maybe not list, but like, what's pushing you right now? This week?
Oh, this week? I don't know if I'd say this week. It's more so just, for me, it's the travel. Like, that's what I love to do. And so it's always like honoring the things that I want to do and working with the money. Right?
Yeah.
What about for you?
I would say for me, so I have this afternoon, I have the Lyra class. I've been going and doing silk classes. For me, it has been allowing myself to play with and explore, doing lots of different things that maybe I wanted to play with and explore as a child and was told I couldn't. So I'm going to do something different today. The Lyra class is different than the silks. I've done 3 sessions with silks. I was also noticing the other day, there's lots of kayaking places around here. And I'm like, I went kayaking once in Maui, absolutely loved it. There's the part of me that's like, oh, I don't want to be in the cold water, and to get into kayak, I have to get a little bit wet. And I want to be diving with my husband more too. But so maybe taking some kayaking or some paddleboard lessons might be fun.
Yeah.
So just for me, it's pushing, allowing my body. And I also um, saw someone doing cartwheels. I went for a long walk on the beach the other day, and I saw this girl doing not only cartwheels, which I can totally do a cartwheel, but she went into the splits, and as a child, I was able to do the splits, that flexibility. And so part of what I've been working with my body is two things: unconditional love.
Yeah.
Like everything that goes into this body, I want it in the energy of unconditional love. So just noticing whenever I have thoughts that don't feel unconditionally loving, if I'm eating something, it needs to be like the amount, the flavor, everything about it needs to be unconditional love or joy
Yeah.
for it to pass through this vessel. Um, and playing with moving my body, removing the tension. I've noticed over the years, like not being able to reach and touch my arms behind my back, or, not being able to do the splits for decades. And a lot of that is that tension, that constriction that has happened over the years of telling stories about where the body's not safe and how the stress constricts us. So just breaking down that and feeling safe within my body to be in different yoga positions, allowing myself to do things that normally would have me tensing up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pushing my edges.
What you're working on, or what you're,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Like even something as simple as last night, it was late, went to bed, noticed, so the cat was in and out and doing his howling thing. My husband fell asleep almost right away, and he was snoring. And I noticed my body. I was like, what's going on? Just like tune in. And I had this kind of like, this energy in my
Irritation.
body
Yeah.
where I was just like, I felt like I wanted to just like kick in the bed, or just like, oh, like, do I need to get up and run? And just, oh. And I wanted to look at the clock and be like, you two kept me up all night long, right? The body wanted to be angry and annoyed and agitated. And I was like, huh, okay. Just sitting with that for a little bit, noticing that this was the habit. Like in the past, I would have been like, I have to get up in so many hours, and I'm going to be tired, and I'm not going to be able to perform as well. You guys are keeping me up, and I'm so annoyed. And like the next morning, it would have been like the cat and you, and right. So that's a source of tension.
Yeah.
Right. So just leaning into the body last night and sort of like one hand on my heart, one hand on my solar plexus, and just being like, I'm just breathing into this discomfort, this like, I want to start kung fu fighting right now. And then this morning I woke up and I was like, I feel just great.
Yeah.
But for a few minutes there, I was like,
yeah, we want to go back too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to pick a fight. So good.
Yeah. Anything else? You good?
I think we're good this week.
Okay. Until next time.
Until next time.